Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Finding Your Way Out of the Unemployment Maze. My name is Amy Lillard, and I am the Executive Director of two organizations. One is Washington Filmworks, and we run the Washington State's Production Incentive Program and have a diversity of resources for the film industry. And our new partner organization called Whipsmart, which is a trade organization to support Washington's creative economy. During the month of May, we convened over 27 focus groups around the state, asking creative workers and creative businesses what they need now and in the future as we move into the recovery from COVID-19. Overwhelmingly, in every single focus group, creative workers told us again and again that they needed help navigating the unemployment system. As you likely already know, the Employment Security Department system and infrastructure wasn't necessarily designed to accommodate the creative industry's project-based work. But it's been, our understanding has been that it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. But today, we hope to get you answers to some of your most urgent questions. With the help of our partner, Artist Trust, we have curated a list of questions that we're getting most often from our friends and colleagues around the state. I'm thrilled to welcome Michael Scott from the Employment Security Department to help demystify the unemployment process. Scott joined ESD in 2011 and is the Legal Service Coordination Manager. His work includes agency rulemaking for unemployment insurance and providing technical assistance to the legislature. While that is on his official bio, we also found out that growing up, he played piano, and during his collegiate days in Nebraska, he flirted with a career in theater lighting design. We also had an opportunity to talk to him about what he's enjoying from the creative industries during the lockdown, and he highly recommends the LeVar Burton podcast. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do. In advance of today's conversation, we sent Scott a whole bunch of your questions, and he's going to kick the webinar off by spending about 20 minutes on a presentation, which will answer some of those questions. And then we're going to jump to the Q&A part of our conversation. If you have questions that were not answered during Scott's presentation, please put them in the chat box, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Scott, and thanks for being here.
All right, thank you for having me. So not only did I flirt with a career in lighting design in college, my first ever job that I got paid for was actually in the creative industry. In high school, I was a spotlight operator. And a local bodybuilding competition had rented out our high school auditorium in order to put on a bodybuilding show. And so in order to run the program, they needed the local high school talent to operate the lights. So my first ever job was a one-day project gig of operating a spotlight for a bodybuilding show. The smell of paint thinner is still in my nostrils from all of that many years later. But we're not here to talk about my life at bodybuilding. We're here to talk about unemployment insurance and how folks in the creative industry can access that. So I'll go ahead and kick this off like so. All right, can I get confirmation that this is visible to the world?
Yep, it's great.
Okay. My name's Scott Michael. I am the often confused with that one character from The Office, Michael Scott. However, it is Scott Michael. It was a lot worse when I was working for the Mifflin Dunder paper company. So how can folks in the creative industry access unemployment benefits? So I'm going to start off with how folks in the creative industries are covered, whether or not they fit within a regular unemployment claim. And there's 3 different exemptions that folks within the creative industry may not fit within the traditional rubric of a regular unemployment claim and whether or not their services count as employment. Therefore, whether or not they count towards their unemployment claim and they can receive benefits as a result. So the first one is a specific exemption for musicians and entertainers. And so there's 4 criteria here on the slide that all 4 criteria have to be met in order for this to be in order for this to count. In order for all of this to be exempt. And so the first criteria in order for somebody to be exempt is that there has to be a written contract. So many of you in the entertainment industry who are going out and performing gigs as a musician or some other form of entertainer in front of a crowd may just have a verbal contract. Well, if you have just a regular verbal contract, well, then that is covered work, meaning that if you just have a verbal agreement, this exemption doesn't apply to you. This work can be covered. So the written contract is also needs to show who the leader of the band is, or who is the leader of the entertainment group. And what this does is it helps us figure out that when somebody goes to pay unemployment taxes, who is responsible for the unemployment taxes? If it's not the venue you're performing for, then it's the leader of the band. The band leader needs to register with us and cover the rest of the band for purposes of unemployment benefits. So that way, when the band breaks up, the band can collect, the other band members can collect unemployment benefits while everyone starts to look for their next gig. The second element is that you only have to do a couple of gigs for a particular venue and not performing continuously or regularly. So for example, a bar who has the same karaoke DJ coming in every Thursday night for karaoke night, that DJ is not going to be exempt. They're going to be an employee. So if you're doing stuff regularly and continuously for the same venue or the same business, week in, week out, month in, month out, then this is not an exemption that applies to you. A third element, whether or not you are doing other things in addition to your performance. So for example, when I lived in Minneapolis for a brief period of time, my favorite bar there was called a karaoke bar called the U Otter Stop In. Otter being the fuzzy animal. We called it the Otter Bar. And the bartender often got in on the action, and he would walk around the bar belting out Sweet Caroline while taking orders, pouring drinks, making change. We were all very impressed by it. But he would not be exempt under this criteria because he was tending bar while he was doing his performance. And then the fourth element is whether the company that hired you is a music or entertainment business. And a music or entertainment business is a business whose primary business activity is music or entertainment. So clear example, the Showbox is a music or entertainment business. That is their primary activity. However, the Fruit Orchard over by Lake Chelan, where my brother-in-law had a wedding reception with a wedding DJ, is not a music or entertainment business. That's not their primary business activity. And so if the company that hired you or that you're performing for is a music or entertainment business, then you should be covered by them. You should be their employee. All right. Next slide. This is a exemption exists. It's in the statute, but it's something that doesn't come up very often, hasn't come up in the 9-ish years that I've been doing work for the Employment Security Department in things like unemployment coverage and who is and isn't covered. It kind of smells like one of those exemptions where businesses got audited, lobbied their state legislator, and they got their own exemption for their own particular business. So the universe of employers, as you read down these 3 elements, clearly shows that this is a pretty small universe it applies to. One, it's a specific list of businesses that it could apply to. So it's a theater company, dinner theater, dance company, museum, musical group. The group only has 3 employees or less on any given day in the year. So for example, if you have a museum with 3 employees or less, and then they decide to host a New Year's Eve party, December 31st, and they bring in a 4th employee to help deal with the extra people coming in, well, at which point the exemption doesn't apply, and they owe unemployment taxes, and all of those employees who worked for that business, all three of them, plus that one person who came in on New Year's Eve, is now covered. So again, you take a small group of employers, and then they have to have 3 employees or less on any given day. Then it gets even smaller, and then then it gets even more minute when you have to pay a stipend of $600 or less to help defray your expenses. So if they just pay you $500, but it's to help for your time and for your expertise in doing the performance or whatever else you're doing, then the exemption doesn't apply to you. So again, this exemption exists, but it's something that's very narrow, applies to very few people and businesses, and so it doesn't really come up very often. But the one that comes up the most often is, of course, the independent contractor exemption. So state unemployment insurance has one of the strictest independent contractor tests out of all of the independent contractor tests. Now, there are different independent contractor tests depending on which government agency you're talking to or what government program or benefit you want to use. So you could be an independent contractor for some programs, and you could be not an independent contractor. You could be an employee for other government programs or other government statutes, and that's okay. For state unemployment, it is a very strict statute. And the courts really don't care if you signed a contract saying you're an independent contractor when you're trying to access unemployment benefits. And if you sign a contract waiving your right to unemployment benefits, that contract is null and void. That at least that part of the contract is null and void. You cannot sign away your right to unemployment benefits. So if you are looking through your paperwork, you see you signed a contract that says, I've waived my right to unemployment benefits, go ahead and apply. That provision does not count. So there, like the previous 2 exemptions, there's 3 elements that all have to apply to you in order for them to make you exempt. If any one of these things does not apply to you, then you are covered and the work that you did counts. So the first up is direction and control. So this can be direction and control that's in the written contract, even if it's never enforced against you. Or this can be direction and control based on the directions your supervisor, whoever else is managing the venue or the show is giving you as you are doing your task. And the more guidelines and directions they give you, the more likely you're not going to count as an independent contractor. So if they have a clause that says no drugs, no alcohol, no foul language, follow these safety protocols, can't play Stairway to Heaven. And, as soon as these start adding up, all of this ends up making you subject to direction and control and make you not an independent contractor. The second element is really a tough one to meet for a lot of entertainment businesses, because if you are you have to show that this person is outside all their places of business. Well, if they're coming to your venue to do a performance, they're doing that performance at your venue. So it's within your places of business. And then it also has to be outside your usual course of business. And this is based off of primarily, not necessarily what your primary business activity is, but if it's something that you do on a regular or continuous basis. So there's a case I often cite out of Utah called Bigfoot's Inc. And Bigfoot's was a bar that had a band come in 2 nights every weekend to come in and play a show. It was a different band every night, but they had a band coming in every night to help perform music for the patrons, bring in revenue. Hopefully people will hang around and buy more drinks and get more drunk at the bar. All of those band members were not independent contractors. They were covered because they were performing at the bar, which is within the place of business. It was also within the bar's usual course of business because they were performing shows week in and week out. And then the last element is the business who wants to claim you're an independent contractor has to establish that you have an independently established business, trade, or occupation. And for a lot of folks who are just starting out in the creative industry, this may not be the case. But we're looking for, do you have your own website? Do you have your own tools that you bring to the job? Do you have a special set of expertise that you bring to the job? And if you are all of a sudden not working, do you have a whole bunch of other clients that you can fall back on in order to continue working? If you are bound to only one particular place, then that is bad. That's not bad. That's just a sign that you may not be independently established in your business, trade, or occupation. And especially for folks in the creative industry, they're bouncing around from job to job, and they may not even be employed in between gigs. They may not have any income coming to them in between different projects. So this makes it really tough to say that you're independently established when you're unemployed for long stretches of time and you don't have a consistent source of income to fall back on. So for folks who do not meet any one of those exemptions, and again, we judge these exemptions on a project on a case-by-case basis. So there may be times when you could be covered for one particular gig and you may not be covered for a different gig. And this is tough for folks who are in the creative industry or work in a gig economy or work various multiple, very short time jobs from week to week, month to month, year to year, because we have to count on that particular business reporting you to the Employment Security Department and having that show up in our records. And so instead of folks who, like me, who consistently work 40 hours a week, month after month, year after year, if I ever get unemployed, I have to have an easier time of it because I've been consistently reported and I only have the one job, and it's pretty clear and easy. For folks who have those 50 jobs or more, or these 50 or 60, 70 gigs in any given year, that's going to be really tough. And so what we ask folks to do is please visit our website, esd.wa.gov/unemployment. This is going to walk you through what information you have to have ready before you begin. It's going to give you some user guides. We're going to have some frequently asked questions on technical issues you may run into. Within the past few weeks, we've also launched a chat bot that you can talk with in order to get some of your questions answered. But we need you to go ahead and file your claim. And one of the things that you're going to need to get together is your records showing the money that you have earned in the hours worked for the past 15 months. And so for folks in the creative industry who may have not been correctly reported and classified by the different people that you've been working for over the past 15 months, this is going to be more important. And it's also, unfortunately, a heavy lift, and that's unfair to you, but that's unfortunately what we got. And so get your records together, showing the money you earned and the hours you worked for the past 15 months, and be ready to supply that when we ask you for it. And anybody who wants any unemployment claim, whether that is a federal unemployment claim or whether that's a state unemployment claim, you do need to apply for an initial state claim. Now, for many of you who have tried to apply and have not been reported by your employer or the businesses you worked for, you may have gotten a letter that looks like this. It's an unemployment claim determination. It tells you that you are ineligible for benefits. You are only eligible for $0 per week. And so we call this in our agency a monetary determination. And this is the And so this first letter is automatically generated based solely off of what employers have reported on their unemployment tax reports to us. Employers have to file a quarterly report with us, telling us who has worked for them and how much have they been paid and how many hours they've worked. But they only have to do that if they for their employees. They don't have to do that for their independent contractors. So if you were classified as an independent contractor by the business you worked for, those wages are not going to show up here, and you may end up denied. Or if you were in the creative industry and some of the businesses you worked for reported you and some did not, then you may end up with some money, but not as much as you may be entitled to if everybody reported you. And so for state unemployment benefits, if you end up with a letter like this, where you end up with zero money or not as much money as you would be entitled to if you had been correctly reported by your employer, you're unfortunately going to have to call us. And the 800 number is there listed. It's 800-318-6022. Or you can send us a message via e-services if you have filed electronically, which we do encourage everyone to do. And so through that process, you can then provide us with the documentation you have. The other thing to keep in mind is that you also need to have 680 hours for any 4 consecutive quarters during the past 15 months. So again, with the creative industry, because you're not always working a full-time job, this is going to be tougher for you, especially if you're bouncing around from engagement to engagement, gig to gig. And so even if we count it all up, you may not still get to the 680 hours that you need in order to qualify for a state claim. So if you don't have enough hours, even if we counted everything, you're still not going to qualify for a state claim. For those of you who are trying to pursue federal unemployment benefits through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, this is going to be enough. As long as we have denied you, and this is a letter saying that you're not eligible, this initial monetary determination is enough to get you ready for pandemic unemployment assistance. And so in order to apply for federal pandemic unemployment assistance, all you have to do is once you get denied, you have to go into your e-services or give us a call and say, I want to apply for PUA or pandemic unemployment assistance. And there's 4 criteria that you have to meet in order to qualify for these federal benefits. 1, you have to apply for and get denied a regular state claim. So if you don't have the 680 hours, that's going to be enough for you. That's it. You've already passed through that. This can also apply to folks who may have been denied because they quit a job without good cause, or for folks who have been discharged for misconduct. Any reason that you do not qualify for a state claim, you can potentially qualify for a federal unemployment claim. The second one is the reason you're not working has to be related to a COVID-19 reason. And Congress, through the Federal CARES Act, has listed out 11 different reasons somebody can qualify for a claim under pandemic unemployment assistance. First is, I'll just run through some of the big ones. The business you normally work for is closed because their county is not in the right phase. Therefore, those types of businesses can't open. So a lot of bars and restaurants or larger venues that have performances aren't going to be open, at least for performances for many folks throughout Washington. So that would solve you right there. Folks who can't work because their daycare is closed due to COVID-19 and you need to stay home and take care of your children. This used to apply to folks where the school was closed because of COVID-19, but now that we've hit summer break for most school districts, this doesn't apply anymore because school is closed because it's summer break, not because of COVID-19. Folks who have been advised to self-quarantine by a healthcare provider, you potentially qualify. Oh, sorry, got a little skip ahead crazy there. And then another one is folks who work as an independent contractor, and then there's been a severe reduction in the amount of work due to COVID-19. So this could apply to many of you within the creative industry who are working gig to gig, project to project, because the projects that you would normally work for and that are normally there aren't there anymore. So therefore, there's a severe reduction in the amount of work that you're able to do. Third is if you're receiving any type of paid leave, you need to report it to us. If you're getting full paid leave, for example, paid vacation leave, paid time off, paid family and medical leave for the full week, you're not going to qualify for this. If you're only getting a partial benefit, like you only get like a 1 day a week of sick leave, you can still potentially qualify, but we do have to deduct that from your unemployment benefits. And if it's work that you can do as a telework with full pay, you won't qualify. If you can telework with partial pay, like only a day a week, so you found an alternative way to do your work. For example, my son takes drum lessons, and he was taking drum lessons virtually for a few weeks until our county hit the correct phase and he could go in for more in-person lessons. So my drum teacher, once they were able to resume telework with pay, he would potentially not be eligible for unemployment benefits, at least these federal unemployment benefits, based off of the fact that he could telework. So folks, if you want to apply for a federal unemployment claim, you've been denied a state claim, you can apply for a regular claim, get denied. So that's step one. Step two, get your income information ready. So just like you had to do for your state claim, we also need to do this for the federal claim. But this can be your IRS Form 1099s. So if you've been received those 1099s, gather all of them up and submit them to us as proof of your wages. Also a federal tax return, and we need the 2019 federal tax return. I know Congress extended the due date for your federal taxes, but if we do need your 2019 information in order to set you up with the correct claim. If you give us your 2018 information, that doesn't help us. And the best form that you can give us, if you're not giving us your 1099s, is your Schedule C. I used to do the wage verifications, and I used to go through and help people get set up with these claims and look through their tax returns and their other financial documentation. And if somebody gave me a Schedule C, that would made my life so much easy, because we just look at the net income, and it's the net income on your Schedule C. Cross-reference it with what you typed into the system. If those two match, it makes it a lot easier for us to set you up with a claim. And then the third thing is to file separate application for federal PUA benefits, and you can do that through your e-services account or if you give us a call. So you may be thinking, if it is so much easier to qualify for a federal claim as opposed to a state claim, why would I just not try to fight for a state claim? And so I want to go through these next couple slides to show you why a state claim may be in your best interest, even if it's tougher to get set up. So for the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA, you can get up to about 46 weeks of that. And the reason, however, the reason for your unemployment on a week-by-week basis has to be related to COVID-19, not because of a poor economy. So if the economy continues to reopen, and we really hope it does, then the folks who qualify based on a COVID-19 reason aren't going to qualify anymore. However, the economy may lag behind the actual reopening of the economy for weeks or months. Businesses that were open before the pandemic may not come back. Often, many of them will not come back. And so the economy is going to lag behind. But we cannot pay you federal benefits based off of just a poor economy. We need to pay you based off of a COVID-19 reason. And if we can't pay you based on a COVID-19 reason, then we can't pay you a federal benefit. And so for these federal benefits, yes, we will pay you the $600 bonus on top of your regular federal benefits. Again, this program is expiring. It only lasts until July 25th, and that's unless Congress extends it. I know that there is a bill in the House of Representatives to extend the $600 payment. I know it's passed out of the House of Representatives, but so far I haven't seen it pass out of the Senate, and I haven't seen any indication that it will be signed by the president. But for a state claim, so if we're able to set you up with a state claim, we can get you 26 weeks of regular unemployment benefits. We can get you 13 weeks of a federal extension called Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, or PEUC, or PUC, but that's kind of the worst acronym ever. But for this federal extension, we can give you another 13 weeks. Then, because we have entered a period of high unemployment in the state of Washington for 3 months, we've now triggered onto something called extended benefits. So this is another 20 weeks. And so for these top 3 benefit programs, these can be paid simply because the economy is poor. So even as the economy reopens due to COVID-19 and COVID-19 becomes less of a concern, which again, we continue to hope happens, but if the economy lags behind, we can continue to pay you these state benefits for a longer period of time. Also, even if you run out of regular unemployment, this federal extension, PEUC, or these extended benefits, you still have this 39 weeks of pandemic unemployment assistance there as a backup to all of that. So let's say that it's winter again, COVID-19 has become more of an issue. Pandemic unemployment assistance can still be applicable to you. And for all of these benefit programs, you still get that $600 bonus on top of every benefit, again, until July 25th. So that kind of covers it. I want to cover a couple of major topics, just because I know this will help address also some of your folks, to give you a couple updates on some happenings that have been going on with the agency over the past few weeks. One is a fraud update. As many of you have heard, Washington State was the victim of sophisticated scammers who filed imposter frauds, meaning they used stolen identity to file fake fraudulent claims in order to steal unemployment money. So far, we've lost approximately $650 million. I think that's the top end of the range as far as we know it. And we've covered at least 350 million of it, so back. When we discovered the unemployment fraud, we did have to put a pause on the payment of hundreds of thousands of people in order to make sure that these were legitimate claims. And we had to ask them to provide proof of their identity. And so through technology, hundreds of agency volunteers, we even called in the National Guard to help clear these issues. We got cleared identity issues in over 200,000 claims. So it's not 200,000 people who are now getting paid, but it's 200,000 identity issues that we have cleared, meaning that we have stopped payment to some of these criminals. And I have helped look through the identity documents that have been submitted. Some of them were fakes. Actually, more than I would have liked to have seen and admit were fakes. And some of them were pretty darn close to the real McCoy. And so we were able to stop many fraudulent claims from going out, but we have cleared those issues. Now, some may continue to come up as we identify, because the scammers haven't gone away. We've managed to stop a lot of them, but they're going to keep trying. And so we're going to keep working on clearing those issues and as they come up. But a huge backlog of hundreds of thousands of claims has been cleared as of last weekend. So for additional information, if you're the victim of identity theft, if you need to go ahead and file a claim, please visit our fraud information website, esd.wa.gov/fraud. They'll give you tips and tricks. Also, reassurance that if you are an innocent victim, we're not going to penalize you. We're not going to make you pay any money back that was stolen, paid to you in your name because a scammer stole your identity. And also, you can still qualify for a claim on your own right. And you can also go ahead and report fraud to us if you if you have found out that you are the victim, and so we can help you through that process. And last thing is our Operation 100%. This is our bottom line program to get legitimate claims processed and paid faster. Our goal is that it should only take about 4 weeks or less to resolve issues that are holding up payment. So our goal right now is that there's about 71,000 people who have not been paid because they're waiting for ESD to take an action. That's down from 81,000 last week. Our laser focus is to get the oldest claims resolved by July 13th. And just so you know, we are paying benefits. We have paid so far over $5 billion since March 8th. $5 billion with a B of benefits have been paid out. And we have paid that to over 800,000 individual people since March 8th. And right now, over 60% of claims are processed and paid within a week. This is actually better than our February 2020 numbers, which was before the whole pandemic and shutdown started at the end of February, beginning of March. And always remember that if there is a backup, we are going to pay you retroactive to the dates that you are eligible. And this is money that is not going to run out. So for those of you who are interested, please visit esd.wa.gov/100. This is our update on Operation 100%. You can see transparently how, through various charts, how many people have been waiting, how many weeks to get their issues resolved, full charts on our progress towards getting issues resolved within 4 weeks. We're trying to be radically transparent with where we are towards achieving our goals and where we are succeeding and where we are falling short. So that is your up-to-date information, and I anticipate we're actually maybe updating that even as early as later this afternoon. So I know that went on a bit longer than 20 minutes. I know that was a little rich, but I am now hoping to answer any questions you got.
Great, thank you, Scott. You actually covered quite a bit of those questions that we sent you in advance, so thank you for that. A couple of you were asking in the chat. We will make this video available as well. So if you're, wanted to see those PowerPoint slides or wanted to see the video or information again, we'll have that available for you. So there's that. And of course, we did get some questions in the chat, so I'm gonna just rapid fire them at you.
Fantastic.
This one has been quite popular today and has to do with people getting locked out of their, do you want me to read what the message is, or do you think you know?
Yeah, go ahead and read the message, and it'll give me a chance to pull up the response I was able to research.
Okay, so the response that they're getting is, we are unable to verify your identity. Please call the Office of Special Investigations. But after calling, they have been told to keep submitting weekly claims, which is impossible because they can't get into their accounts.
Okay. So one of the things that we can do is we can is that there's a different hotline for issues with your SAW account or Secure Access Washington account. And I will go ahead and post that into the chat as soon as I get that pulled up. The other thing is that on the fraud website, when you go ahead and file, say, I've been the victim, report fraud, one of the options that you can use as part of the dropdown is I have been the victim of imposter fraud and I need to file a claim. So if you do that, that also sets an issue with us. So I'd also maybe try calling OSI again and calling that number again, it does seem a little strange that they invite you to call a number and and they're telling you that it doesn't work. So something may be going on there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. One other question that came up is an appeal process, right? So having heard in your presentation that the idea to qualify for the PUA benefits, which are the federal benefits, you first have to get declined at the state level, which we all heard as part of your presentation. If there is a denial or disqualification after that, is there an appeal process that you can go through at ESD?
Yes, there is an appeal process. And what the appeal process looks like is that anytime you get a letter that you appeal, you are given instructions and a deadline for when to file an appeal. And you have about 30 days after you get that letter to file the appeal. And the date that you have to file is going to be listed on that letter. That letter then goes to Employment Security Department. And one of the first things we do is we're going to look at that letter and see, golly gee, did we make the right decision? Maybe there was information we didn't have before that you are now providing us in your appeal letter that changes our mind, or that was the missing link that was preventing us from being able to approve you for benefits. And so if we're able to do that, we will do that. If we're not able to do that, we will then go ahead and turn it around over to the Office of Administrative Hearings. This is an independent state agency whose job is to hold hearings like unemployment hearings, where you get an opportunity to say what you need to say to an independent judge in order to let them know what's going on and why you think you should be paid benefits. If there's an employer on the other side, they will have an opportunity to do that as well. And then they're going to hear what you got to say, reach an independent decision, which you can then appeal further up all the way to the state Supreme Court if you feel you need to. But first off, we try to just give folks a clear, easy administrative process. You don't need to have a lawyer. You don't need to pay any filing fees. It's free to use, and it's done over the phone. You don't even need to put on a shirt or a tie or a suit or anything. You can just call from the comfort of your own home and tell the judge what they need to know.
So first of all, I want to know if ESD staff say golly gee a lot. That's what you said. But with all of that being said, and appreciating the fact that there is an appeal process, everyone is so in desperate need of relief right now. Do you have any idea of how long that process might take?
So the appeal process, or just the process for resolving benefits?
Right. So that appeal process that you just discussed, if you get denied, and have to go through the appeal process, what does that look like?
So during the worst of times, and we're kind of in the worst of times, we do have a pretty significant backlog of appeals that we have received. And so it's going to take us about, last I heard, was about 3 to 4 weeks to process that over to the Office of Administrative Hearings. Then the Office of Administrative Hearings also has their high volumes that they're going to have to work through. So they're going to have to find time to schedule your hearing, and they will and give you enough time of the hearing date. And so it's probably going to take them about 2 to 3 weeks after we send it to them, and then give you about 2 weeks notice of the hearing date. So we're at about 2.5 months at that point. And then once you have the hearing date, assuming everything goes correctly, they can turn it around, turn around an order within about a week or two. So looking from the day you file the appeal to when you may actually get a different decision from an administrative law judge is about 3 months at this point. Still a lot faster than filing a lawsuit in court, but nonetheless, it is still several months, which I understand is not ideal for anybody. And like with everything else, we're trying night and day to find ways to make this customer experience a lot better and faster.
Right, absolutely. Okay, here's one which is hopeful also. So if you take a gig or a project, how do you account for that? If gigs come in quickly and they start work, how do you account for that if you have already submitted your weekly claim to ESD? So you filed on the weekend, you get a gig. How do you account for that when you report to ESD?
So anytime you file your weekly claim, and you're always filing the weekly, so if you're filing a claim now, you're filing your claim for last week. So you should know this week what gigs you had last week. And so when you're looking at what you did last week, just tell us what gigs you did, how many hours you worked, how much money that you earned as a result of that gig. And then we will just simply deduct that from your unemployment benefits. So you're still better off financially working than getting unemployment benefits. And so long as you continue to have at least $1 of benefits coming to you, so as long as your deductions don't get you all the way down to zero, we're still going to pay you that $600 on top of it. So please, be honest, answer truthfully the gigs you've had. And yes, there may be a deduction, but we're still going to pay you that $600 on top of it, so long as it doesn't get to you have enough gigs where it looks like you're working full time and you're not unemployed, at least for that week.
Great. That was new to me too, so I appreciate that. So this is a very popular one. I know ESD has been very lenient on the job search requirement right now, but can you give us the definitive on what the requirements for job searches are each week?
So today there is none. And the governor has been waiving work search since the end of March, and work search requirements continue to be waived by the consent of the legislature. Currently, they are set to expire July 1st, but we expect that to continue. The other thing that we're doing with as the economy reopens and we're re-looking at how we work as an agency is we're also looking at how should people look for work in this post-COVID-19 world. What can we do to be more expansive and more cognizant of the more modern economy or the post-COVID economy that we are in? And so I am in discussions day in, day out, week in, week out for the past few weeks, trying to come up with ways that we can update it. And so we're getting that ready to launch as soon as the work search does become required. We are also getting ourselves ready to start serving the billions of people who are going to need help finding work, and also giving them flexibilities on what that looks for. Okay. And so currently statute still requires 3 job search contacts a week. So that's either a job search activity at our WorkSource offices or unemployment offices, or it's 3 contacts with an employer or some combination of the both. But we are looking at using our rulemaking powers to expand what that looks like from what it looked like before. So stay tuned. We'll be excited to offer you more flexible opportunities as far as what work search looks like in order to help people get back to work.
That is really encouraging news. So thank you for that. Here's one that I've heard quite a bit from the community over the past 3 months is, can you seek unemployment benefits for gigs that you were supposed to have, but were canceled and have contracts for?
You can ask for unemployment benefits based on wages that were due to you that should have been paid to you, but weren't. Most of the time this comes up in terms of employers that are going down under or going bust and don't end up paying payroll for the last week. They just skip town without paying their workers the last week or two of payroll. But I believe it could also apply within the context of folks who have their gigs canceled on them and they were due a payment, and then it doesn't apply. So you may need to look at the terms of your contract as to whether or not that money was due to you in the event of a cancellation. But it is certainly possible that if you were supposed to be paid and you got stiffed, that could still count towards a potential unemployment claim.
Great. That's the first time I've heard that, so it's very helpful. Thank you so much. Are unemployment benefits taxable income? And if so, what rate? Should we be having the state withhold a portion of our weekly payment?
So yes, unemployment benefits are taxable. I'm not sure what the precise rate is. It's the normal rate, whatever it is. But you do have the option of, when you file your claim, having the state withhold that money on your claim. So whatever the tax rate is, we can withhold that, or we can pay you the full amount, but then you'd have to report that to the IRS. And we report to the IRS every year on, I believe it's a Form 1099-G, what unemployment benefits were that we paid out to claimants. And so you will also need to account for that when you file your taxes. So either we'll take care of the taxes for you, or you can take care of it on your own, and you're just going to have to make that decision based off of your own personal circumstances.
So a follow-up question to that, and I'm not sure, I was under the impression from a conversation with a colleague that you should be aware of what your tax withholding requirements are, because ESD may not withhold 100% of what you're going to owe. I think that's the case. Is that true? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can find out for this community. We can find out and follow up on that and make sure that we put it in our weekly newsletter. But with that, knowing that we just have 8 minutes left, Scott, what is the best way? I have one last question that I'd like to round out the conversation with, but what is the best way for our community to keep engaged with this conversation and be in touch with ESD?
What is the best way? Yeah, I'm happy to come in and continue to talk to folks in different webinars. Please engage with your your lobbyists, your organizers, whoever is in charge, such as Whipsmart. To continue to talk to us about different ways. I mean, you can also talk to your legislator. I mean, to see, because it's kind of been, as far back as FDR, the unemployment system has long held has long had a bias in favor of long-term, stable, 40 hours per week jobs. And it really has not been it's been less helpful, hasn't been completely unhelpful, but it's been more difficult for folks in the creative industries who work more fluid, sporadic jobs. So there, you may be able to try to engage as far as what should an unemployment system look like that does account for more gig jobs. And so, and that's a very meta conversation that I know we in the agency continue to have, and that I know that folks in public policies, think tanks, legislators are all kind of trying to think of as how to be more inclusive of those jobs. So we'll continue to talk with your group leads as far as what should this all look like, and talk to your legislators and keep this conversation going. I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have, and I enjoy having it.
So I have to tell you, you could not have teed up my my closing comment for this community better, in that, as we went through this focus group, these focus groups in May and talked to the community statewide, we know that the social safety net has failed this community during this pandemic. And what's really inspiring and encouraging is we are talking to, our colleagues and friends at the state level, in the governor's office, in the Department of Commerce, at the state legislature, about this very specific problem for these industries, for the creative economy in Washington state. And so we are going to ask you, and I know we are all surveyed out, and I know that, and I apologize about that, but we want to tell this story to the state about how the social safety net can do better for us. So Filmworks and Whipsmart does have another survey. It won't take you very long, but if you could take the 15 minutes so that we as an industry can be part of the change that we want to see, we would greatly appreciate it. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, I think that's the easiest way to get it, but we'll also, send it out to our partners as well. But there's a real opportunity because the state does see the challenges that we are having as an industry, and there is real desire to do more good for more people. So with that, I have one last question for you. We all have a little bit of hindsight 2020 in this moment. And so are there proactive things that creative workers can do to prepare better for potential filing of claims and interacting with ESD in the future? Like, what is your best advice as we look forward, learning from where we've come from?
I think one of the things that has come up for me the most in my mindset is how important being classified properly by the businesses you work for is. Because when you go to file a claim, the difference between getting set up with a claim right away and not getting or it taking weeks to verify wages and verify employment and verify hours, that's a very stark difference, especially with the volumes that we've had to deal with all of a sudden. And so working with the businesses that you are working for to make sure that you are properly classified, looking through the contracts that you have to sign and questioning whether you are an independent contractor, questioning whether you should be waiving any rights to unemployment insurance, asking your employers to cover you, to make sure that you are properly reported and covered. That way, I think that is the best way, I think, for folks who are in these creative industries, who are working gig to gig or project to project, is to have those conversations on a day in, day out basis, because the more that people are covered, the stronger the social safety net is, and that easier it is for us to deploy that social safety net in order to help catch them and prop them up.
Oh, that's such a nice note to end on. So thank you for, working with us in advance of this conversation, Scott, to, look at the questions and to get the answers and to incorporate them into your presentation. We would love to take you up on your offer to come back and visit with us as we, have additional questions. Again, to the community that's listening in, we will have this video available for you. In addition, we keep an ongoing section on our website, washingtonfilmworks.org, where we have breaking news about ESD and some of those other things that we didn't get to in this conversation, like those SBA loans. So, with that, please sign up for the newsletter and send us your questions. And Scott, we'll see you at the next one, is what I'm going to say.
My pleasure.
Great. Thanks so much.